Umajana Tramanandasya, Jana Jana Salakaya, Chakshur Melitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Panchakalpadubhischa, Kripasinvacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavijnamo Namaha. So, good evening, everyone. Continuing with our discussion of Srila Jiva Goswami's Sandarbha. We're coming to the middle of the Tattva Sandarbha and finishing up with his discussion of the pramana, or his method of determining the absolute best source for knowledge. So we're just going to finish that this evening. We will do a summarizing class Saturday evening, and then next week we'll begin with prameya, the object of knowledge. So we've covered what is the method of acquiring knowledge, what is the topmost aspiration, the topmost knowledge to be aspired for, to be had. That is prameya. So we can chant together his invocational verse. And we will come up with a new verse for the prameya section. This is the very first verse of the Tattva Sandarbha. We can chant responsively. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam,
Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam,
Sangopangastraparsadam,
Sangopangastraparshadam,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajantihi Sumedasa,
Yajantihi Sumedasa,
Krishna Varnam Tvisa
Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam,
Sangopangastraparsadam,
Sangopangastraparshadam,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajantihi Sumedasa,
Yajantihi Sumedasa,
Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam,
Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam,
Sangopangastraparsadam,
Sangopangastraparshadam,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar,
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
Yajantihi Sumedasa.
In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So we were at the 24th Anucheda. Srila Jiva Goswami has established the descending sound, sabda, apurushaya, non-human, coming from the transcendental realm. So apurushaya, sabda, praman. The topmost praman evidence available to humanity regarding the absolute knowable object is scriptural knowledge. And the scripture that is recognized by all the spiritual lineages is the Vedic literature. And of the various divisions of Vedic literature, the Vedas themselves, the Vedanta Sutra, which is a commentary on those Vedas, what is the essence of those Vedas, all the other texts of scripture, which are Apurushaya, descending, non-human, coming from the transcendental realm, the Puranas, and Itihasas, of which the foremost is the Mahabharata. And of all this transcendental sound vibration, Jiva Goswami has taken us through an analysis of all that various spiritual literature, scripture. In earlier ages of mankind, this knowledge was not passed down in a written form. It was passed down from teacher to student, and in earlier ages, the qualifications of the students were much more refined and than ours today. Of course, their environment, their circumstance was they were much more better off as far as their facilities. They lived in one body for a considerable time. They had perfect memory in the beginning ages, the earlier ages, in this cycle of time, referred to as Yuga cycle, 4 yugas, Satya Yuga. Lifespans were 100,000 years in one body. The method of realization was that of meditation. You had enough time to get it right. We're living here trying to come to a stage of entering into deeply into samadhi on the Lord's holy name, but we have such a limited time, 100 years. They live for 100,000 years. So we're just infants trying to enter into the holy name, and that's the most the easiest method of meditation, mantra meditation. And their methods were they had plenty of time to perfect it, and there were no outside distractions. They didn't have
barking dogs.
They didn't have barking dogs. They didn't have cars. They had wonderful arrangements for their living. No concerns. No political upheaval. No terrorism. No dog-eat-dog world, so to speak, or dog disturbance world. And coming forward in time, humanity has gradually dwindled in their abilities. And according to this changing of time, the methods of self-realizations have also been adapted by the sages accordingly. So what was once acquired by meditation was soon replaced by great sacrifices, to be replaced by temple worship. Coming to this age of Kali, where now the method, as we chanted at the beginning of our class this evening, the Sumedasa, those that are intelligent, superbly intelligent in this age, be like an amoeba in the earlier ages of mankind. Our limited intelligence, the light coming from our our intelligence is compared to theirs. But we have a very extraordinary opportunity made available. And we can kind of understand that whenever we see somebody who has some real deficiencies, we go out of our way to help them. So similarly, Krishna being the most compassionate, seeing our miserable condition, our short lives, our infantile brains, has given us a very simple method for advancement in spiritual life and self-realization. So before all these literatures, they were not written down. There was not need for that. People had brain substance that was so superior that we would consider them all, geniuses beyond our even IQ measurement standard. They could remember anything and everything that they heard from their mentors, from their gurus, their sages, their saints, simply by hearing it once. And in this age, we have a hard time remembering hardly anything. What we did yesterday is sometimes even a struggle. What we have to do today, that's a struggle. What someone just asked us to do, that's sometimes a struggle. So that's our dilemma in this age. So everything has been written down by the Lord himself in a manifestation, a literary incarnation, someone to scribe everything. So Srila Vyasadeva presented all this corpus of Vedic knowledge in the written format. He wrote down the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, the Vedanta Sutra, and presented the Mahabharata, often referred to as the 5th Veda, and the Puranas. So
the Upanishads come in.
Upanishads are the 4th division of the Veda. And the Vedanta Sutra is a commentary on those Upanishads. So we're now to the position where Jiva Goswami's taken us through, given us a tour of all these various spiritual literatures, transcendental literatures, sound vibration that is not human, non-human, Purusheya, that can benefit us both materially and spiritually. It's free of the defects of humanity. Its objective is simply for the good of humanity, whether in material affairs or in spiritual affairs. The whole objective of these literatures is to give knowledge to humanity that will serve them well according to their mentalities, their position. But for our purposes, for the purposes of Jiva Goswami in presenting what is the absolute truth, he wants to give us the topmost method of knowledge. And in going through this analysis of descending sound vibration, we come to this stage in his presentation of epistemology, valid methods of acquiring knowledge, where he is making his case beyond any reasonable doubt that of all that Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana, and it is our topmost pramana. Interested in acquiring that topmost position of knowledge of the supreme absolute truth. So this evening, we're going to go through, hopefully, the the last few Anuchedas to conclude this section of Bhagavata epistemology. We started with the Vedic epistemology, what gives credence to the Veda themselves, and now we're to he's limited his scope of explanation by eliminating and proving that of all these Vedic literatures, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavat Purana, the second Bhagavat Purana that Srila Vyasadeva compiled under the direction of Narada, bringing out the essence of the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the topmost. So, Anucheda 24. What do we want to start with? Yes, we went through last week the gradual evolution of theistic thought in human society after the Vedic Purushaya knowledge was basically pushed aside by Lord himself in his incarnation as Lord Buddha. Mankind had become fallen to the extent that they were misusing the prescriptions in the Veda to such an extent that it was creating pain and suffering for other living entities. So he came as Lord Buddha and set that aside. And then we went through last time how step by step the Lord came as Buddha, then he sent Lord Shiva to get humanity back on track with the Vedas by simply taking them off a voidistic objective, that actually it all ends in voidism, to a spiritual objective, but also non-dual, and also what? Advaitavad, Brahman, merging into the Brahman. Very akin to Buddhism, but nirvishesha, not sunyavadi, not voidness, not nothingness, not nirvana, but distinctionless spiritual existence as the ultimate objective. And then Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Bhalavacharya, step by step, coming into full-fledged theism as what's really presented in the Vedas, culminating in the manifestation of the Lord again as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, introducing the topmost presentation of theistic thought. And that's what we're blessed with now. And that's what the Srimad Bhagavatam delivers to us in a spotless way. So going forward, Madhvacharya wrote Bhagavat Tatparya, a gloss of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because of concern over the influence of commentaries of Sankaracharya's disciples like Punyaranya. So we know that Sankaracharya had such great respect. Of course, this is Lord Shiva coming in a disguised form and giving some interpretation to Vedic knowledge to capture the minds of those Buddhist followers of Buddha who were into voidism. So in coming forward and switching gradually turning them towards the Veda again, he had to do it in such a way that he gave his own interpretation. But that interpretation did not include an understanding of the personality of the Supreme. just his impersonal aspect. Now, there's some very nice writing that Sankaracharya did. He presented some nice poems, actually, praising Govinda and Krishna. And they're very, very revealing. And they're all based upon the content of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in doing that, since he took content from the Bhagavatam and wrote these beautiful prayers to the personality of the Supreme, his disciples said, oh, well, that's like a commentary on the Bhagavatam, not knowing that he purposely didn't want to write a commentary on the Bhagavatam, because in doing so, there's no way you can write a commentary on the Bhagavatam that arrives at an impersonal conclusion. It's not possible. But of course, there were some upstarts. So therefore, as they, and specifically one disciple of Sankaracharya is mentioned here, Punyaranya, he commented on the Bhagavatam. So when Madhvacharya, a Vaishnav, saw this, he was immediately appalled. Oh, now the Sankarites are commenting on the Bhagavatam. I have to give the proper conclusion. So he did so. Bhagavata Tatparya is his contribution. It's called a gloss on the Srimad Bhagavatam. This Anucheta goes on to begin to praise the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam, the first canto, 1.3.41. Srila Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who is the most respected amongst the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. So we're going to, a little repetition. I kind of went a little into this Anucheta at the end of last class, the exalted position of Sukadeva Goswami. Then he quotes, Jiva goes forward and he quotes a verse from the end of the Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedic philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction for its nectarine mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. So it's like that little flute sound you may hear from the banks of the Yamuna. If you once go there to hear that flute sound, don't expect to again return to your material life, because it will not be possible. It will capture your heart and capture your whole essence, your whole being. So similarly, at the end of Bhagavatam, the same glorification is given. Start to read Bhagavatam and nothing else is going to capture you again like Bhagavatam does. It will capture your intellect and it will rule your heart the more you enter into its mystery. He goes on to quote another verse from the Bhagavatam, speaking of the nectar of the Bhagavatam for the liberated souls. This is from the first canto, first chapter, third verse. Nigama kalpa taror galitam phalam. It's that ripened fruit. We spoke about that, the ripened fruit. It doesn't even have a skin. It doesn't even have a pit. It's completely relishable, entirely. There's nothing to be discarded there. You can consume it all because it's all purely transcendental. Then Jiva Goswami quotes a verse from the end of the Bhagavatam for the conditioned living entities who approach Bhagavatam. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Sukadeva Goswami, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion For those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. So, from the topmost liberated personalities to those that are still immersed in material existence, Srimad Bhagavatam can be relished by both classes of men, from the topmost to the gross materialist, from the beginning to the end of the Bhagavatam. The conclusions about reality embodied in Srimad Bhagavatam preside over all other philosophies. Sukadeva became the guru of everyone present. This will come out more in the next Anucheta. I want to see if I can find 24, so no, 23. Let me share Sukadeva Goswami's poems from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Govindastikam. They're all very wonderful. I'm sorry, Sankaracharya, you're correct. Sankaracharya's Govindastikam. I'll read one or two of them just so you can get a feel for Shiva Goswami's appreciation of the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and the object of the study of Bhagavatam. May the self be devotionally offered to Sri Govinda, who is inherently of the nature of transcendental bliss. He is Gopal, the protector of the cows, who appeared in the form of a cowherd boy to enact his pastimes on earth, and who thus lived as one amongst us, one amongst the cowherd clan. He is Gopal, who enacts sublime pastimes, such as his amorous dalliances with the youthful cowherd women, and his lifting Govardhan Hill to protect the cowherd people. Even the cows called him by the name Govinda, and so he has unlimited names. He is distinct amongst the cowherd boys and is beyond sense perception.
Doesn't sound like a Mayavadi.
No, it doesn't, does it? So they're all wonderful, wonderful prayers. I'll read one more. A person who has fully imbibed this Govindastika through recitation and reflection, this is his benediction, whose consciousness has been devotionally offered to Govinda. This is Sankaracharya, the king of Mayavadis, who sweetly chants, O Govinda, Achyuta, Madhava, Vishnu, Goloka, Nayaka, Krishna, thus cleansing away all his sins with the ambrosial water of meditation of the lotus feet of Sri Govinda. Such a person certainly attains Sri Govinda, the supreme everlasting bliss, present as interior ever to consciousness itself. So we can see, and that's just some, there's more. We could study all of them just to see the deep philosophical points being made by Sankaracharya. If anybody wants, I can get them copies of those prayers from the lips of the greatest Mayavadi.
Looks like in Guru Maharaj's Bhagavad Gita, he often quotes Madhusudana Saraswati, who was also a Mayavadi. his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and you read some of the things he said, it's like, this person couldn't possibly be a mind body.
Let us move forward to Anuchedas 25. The speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Sukadeva Goswami, is the crest jewel of illuminated sages. So now Jiva is speaking to the qualification speaker of the Bhagavatam. So again, we've seen repeatedly through these Anuchedas, his giving qualifications to the Vedas, his giving of qualifications. What's the qualification for a Purushaya knowledge, Pramana, for the Vedas, for the Puranas, for the Mahabharata? Step by step, he's qualified all these things. And now he's qualifying Sukadeva Goswami, again, to give emphasis to the spotless nature of the Bhagavat Purana. And he quotes verses here from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he speaks of that period, that portion of the Bhagavatam which deals with Sukadeva Goswami arriving on the scene. So, as we know, all the great celestial sages, sages from the heavenly planets, and the earthly sages, and the demigods, not all, but some, they came to this great gathering when they heard that Maharaj Parikshit had made a determination. They came on the plea of going on pilgrimage, along with their disciples. So it must have been quite a party, quite a gathering. And it says celestial sages, Brahmana sages, royal sages, Vedic sages, from throughout the whole universe arrived. A quote of a verse from the Bhagavatam: "O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty." So he's greeted them, he sat them down, he's paid his respects to all these great sages, and now he places his question. What's my immediate duty? He's told them, I've made the determination that my offense is the will of providence, and therefore I've made a determination to fast until death, and as atonement for insulting a Brahmana. So what's my immediate duty? What do I do now? Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstance. He wants to talk most for everyone in all circumstance, and specifically for those that are about to die. So what is that duty which is the topmost of all duties? At that very moment, he asked the question. At that moment, Sukadeva Goswami arrives. Women and children in tow. Sorry, don't misunderstand. Not his women and children. He traveled the earth as an avadut. He had no social standing in society, no social position. He had no interest whatsoever in material affairs. So he arrives on the scene, and here he is, a naked 16-year-old boy coming into this assembly, followed by women and children who think he's a crazy fellow, but they're attracted to there's something about him, something in the way he is, his concept. They're like, well, yeah, I want to be around this guy. So they're following. He immediately goes into the assembly in this condition, and immediately all the sages, these sages and their disciples, they immediately stand to receive him.
you can try to comprehend the scene. They immediately felt his spiritual position. They knew. And these were not, there were some pretty heavyweight sages there, including his spiritual master and his spiritual master's spiritual master. They were also there. The Bhagavatam lists all these. There were even avatars of the Supreme Lord there, Parshuram and Vedavyas. They all rose and offer respect to Sukadeva Goswami when he entered this assembly. All the sages rose to honor him. He appeared extraordinarily resplendent, like the moon surrounded by planets, constellations, and stars. And in the commentary, it mentions just like Sukadeva Goswami was a moon surrounded by constellations and stars, we can see that the Srimad Bhagavatam itself is the moon of all spiritual literatures, surrounded by all other Vedic literature, scripture. It's that prevalent. What? So prevalent that it's a light unto itself. The other literatures don't give light to the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam gives light to all the other Vedic literature. It's like the sun. It's arisen after the departure of Lord Krishna for his own abode. Powerful. Anucheta 26. Srimad Bhagavatam is self-authoritative. We just touched on that in the verse from the Bhagavatam. And when Sukadeva Goswami began to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam in that assembly, both Vyasadeva and Narada felt that they'd never heard it before. So again, speaking to the nature of the speaker, he was able to present it in such a way that even the author and the guru of the author felt enlivened, like they'd never heard it presented that way. Jiva Goswami goes on to quote another verse from the Bhagavatam. This Bhagavat Purana is brilliant as the sun. Krishna Swa Dhammapagate. We've just touched upon that. The very second verse of the Bhagavatam speaks to its virtues. It reveals the supreme Dharma, devoid of all deception and compromise. He mentions in his Anucheta also the Muktapala of Vopadev and its commentator Hemadri. So at this time of the presentation of the Sandarbhas, these must have been respected literatures of that day. And he goes to point out that Srimad Bhagavatam fulfilled the role of Veda, Purana, and poetry. So this was brought out by Vopadev in the Muktapala, that the Bhagavatam speaks in all three voices. What are those three voices? Speaks like the Veda. The Veda speaks what? Like a master. Do this. But there's no buts. Why? There's no whys. When we approach the Veda says this is the way it's done. So as a master speaks, the Bhagavatam speaks at times. As a friend, how's a friend speak? Convincingly, like the Puranas, giving some narration, some story, some circumstance, so that we can understand it and apply it to ourselves. Sometimes it's explained like this: the mother-in-law may want to give some direction to her daughter-in-law, but might be a little much for the daughter-in-law to take it directly from a mother-in-law, So the mother will chastise or give the direction to her daughter with her daughter-in-law present, hoping that she'll get the message. So this kind of giving not without offending is the thing. Without offending, as a friend would give knowledge. It's given to you in your best interest, but not in a way that's like a ruler, do this or else. It's like the Puranic stories are meant to give us transcendental knowledge and spiritual, experiential knowledge as a friend. And then also the Srimad Bhagavatam speaks to us in the third way, in the way of a lover. And the lover speaks in a very charming way to capture the heart. What is the way? In sweet language and indirectly. Doesn't come right out. It's already, these things are understood between lovers, how the communication is there. Srimad Bhagavatam is not dependent on the Vedas. It stands on its own. As I said, and I've said before, you'll find in Jiva's presentation, and repetition of a good thing is a good thing, and he will make the point again and again. And what do we come away with? We come away with a concrete sense of the importance of the knowledge he's giving us. Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest manifestation of Shruti, the original Vedas. It's the highest manifestation of the Shruti. And it's intended for one audience in particular, Satvati, the pure Vaishnavas.
I thought it was for all people of all time.
I said it is, but it's specifically for the pure Vaishnavas. It's its highest audience. Another thing that's brought out in the commentary is, imagine the popularity. Imagine the Bhagavatam itself is made more popular by the speaker, Sukadeva Goswami. How has he come? How has he come to know the Bhagavatam from his father, Vyasadeva? And how much respect the entire audience has for him. So the point is made there that if there's an extremely famous person and they sing a song, that song immediately becomes more famous. It's more. So whenever somebody of a great position, of a great character in society does something, what is it? Other men follow them. They're the leaders. So again, by having Sukadeva as the speaker, the Bhagavatam is even given more of a prestigious position. Another distinction of Sukadeva Goswami is his spiritual master, and even his spiritual master, both Srila Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, they're sometimes called upon in circumstances to speak on other matters, on karma, on jnana, on yoga, depending on the questions that are presented to them and the audience that they're addressing. Whereas Sukadeva Goswami, his speaking is only on the Bhagavatam. So again, the Bhagavatam's greatness, it has an unparalleled author, it has an eminent speaker, and it has an elevated audience. So all these combine together to make that assembly and the presentation of the Bhagavatam by Sukadeva that much exalted. There's no recorded history of any scripture having such an audience, except maybe the passing of Bhishma, because you have Krishna there and Krishna's eternal associates. So that was also quite extraordinary. But what was the objective of that meeting? The objective of that meeting was to do what? To get Yudhisthira to take up the throne and to give up his dignity after the battle. So the objective of the instructions that were given to him by grandfather Bhishma were to what? Reinstate him in ruling for the benefit of humanity. What's the objective of Sukadeva in his instructions to Maharaj Parikshit? To answer his inquiry, what is the best, the absolute best for humanity, and specifically for someone who is about to die? So Sukadeva had no need to dilute for any religious purpose what was presented in that assembly when he gave Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. Srimad Bhagavatam removes the ungodly material desires from the heart and instills devotion to the Lord through ambrosial narrations. So that concludes the epistemology section of the Tattva Sandarbha. There are two Anuchetas given by Jiva Goswami before he enters into Prameya, the ontology. What is the objective of knowledge? So how do we acquire knowledge? We've come to what? Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all knowledge. Now we come to two Anuchetas giving the methodology of the Sandarbhas. How is Jiva Goswami going to present the knowledge? What is he going to use? It's pointed out that these two Anuchetas are imperative for understanding Jiva Goswami's strategy for analyzing Srimad Bhagavatam. Pramana, for self-disclosure of ultimate reality. So this is going to provide us with the manner used by the author to present his entire anthology, the whole Sat Sandarbha. This is how he's going to proceed. If we can bear in mind, as we study the remainder of the Sat Sandarbhas, this methodology, what it meant, this will allow us a systematic self-realization, self-revelation of the metaphysics of the Bhagavata. That's pretty profound. So these are important Anuchetas. It will allow us with a systematic self-revelation of how the Bhagavatam effectuates our spiritual realization. So just to keep it in mind. So what do we need to keep in mind? Anucheta 27. Jiva Goswami says, our explanation of the Srimad Bhagavatam verses will serve as sutras. The Srimad Bhagavatam text itself that he's going to present in the Anuchetas will serve as a scriptural text to be analyzed. And the commentary will be an explanation of those verses as given by Sridhar Swami. He's really qualifying his presentation of the Bhagavatam here for us. That he's taking what? Sridhar Swami's commentary on the Bhagavatam as the what? Quintessential presentation in his day. Now he's also going to mention in the next Anucheta the works of Madhvacharya. But primarily, he's going to base his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam verses that he'll present to give us an understanding of the methodology of the Bhagavatam, primarily on Sridhar Swami's Bhagavatam. Then he goes on to qualify it a little bit, because what? Sridhar Swami's commentary on the Bhagavatam was also a transitional commentary. Let me explain what that means. Just like Sankaracharya, transitional, so also Sridhar Swami, some of his commentary does contain Sankaracharya's philosophy of Advaita Bhad. What do we call that? Radical non-dualism. So radical it doesn't make sense. It's a conjecture. So, Jiva Goswami says here, Jiva Goswami says here, I'm only going to use Sridhar's commentary on the Bhagavat Purana where it conforms with pure Vaishnavism and where he presents Sankaracharya's Advaitavad, radical non-dualism. We're not going to use that. Then he goes on to give us knowledge of why aren't you going to use all of his commentary? So he answers that question. Sridhar Swami's views I'll also use from his other writings that weren't in the Bhagavatam, that are also in conform pure Vaishnavism. And I'm also going to base my explanations on the authoritative writings of Ramanujacharya, such as his Sri Bhashya. And then he mentions the glory of Ramanujacharya as being the representative of the Sri Sampradaya, the Lakshmi Devi Sampradaya. And a huge amount of followers, so much so that it's even mentioned in the Bhagavatam itself. In the 11th canto, the huge amount of Vaishnavas coming from Dravida. And then he ends this Anucheta by saying that he is not going to discuss Advaita Bod at length. He's not going to enter into that deeply. It has no substance anyway, so why waste your time with it? So in the next class, we'll do our summary, as I said. We'll have an audience maybe a little different that hasn't heard any of this. Try to draw them into this literature. We'll complete in the next normal class. We'll complete this explanation of these two Anuchetas, and we will begin on the ontology of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What does the Srimad Bhagavatam have to offer us? So we made it halfway through the Tattva Sandarbha. I hope it's been somewhat helpful in highlighting the way we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas look to the Srimad Bhagavatam as our praman, as our evidence, over and above anything else. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So Sridhar Swami was before Shankaracharya or after? That's my first question.
I would say after.
After.
Mhm.
Okay, so did I understand that correctly? That you said that Sridhar Swami in his commentary on Bhagavatam was also using some guidance.
Yes, I'm going to touch upon that in the next class.
Okay.
It was one of those relative things that a guru does.
Something like he just put it only his commentaries, so that would be like extra support that even.
No. He sprinkled. It's explained like this. And this is the way Jiva explains it. Jiva Goswami himself. He was like a fisherman, and he baited the Advaitins to let them experience the Bhagavatam. He had baited them with their philosophy by putting that into some of his commentary on the Bhagavatam.
Okay.
So Jiva's saying, I'm only going to use, Sridhar Swami is the best commentator on the Bhagavatam, as evidenced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So we're going to take his commentary and it's going to be used primarily along with some of the commentaries of Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya. So I'm going to use all these great Vaishnavas as giving substance to what I'm going to present from the Bhagavatam. So they're going to be my evidence. And they're going to, they also are, especially Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya had the greatest library of the day. He had a photographic memory. He went all around India, and he assimilated a huge repository of literature, Vaishnava literature. And where he wasn't allowed to actually sit down and copy the book, like the temple would say, oh, no, you can't copy our scripture. Well, he had a photographic memory, read the whole thing, he'd go out and he'd write it down. It's said that he accumulated the greatest library of the day. And this is about 300 or 400 years before Jiva Goswami. So yes, it's interesting that also, in fact, when I was studying this, I was thinking of the fall vod. It's like, you know, I mean, even Sridhar Swami used it by interspersing in his Bhagavatam commentary things in an impersonal way, just so those impersonalists would read his commentary, knowing that what? Well, in the same way that Sukadeva Goswami was also, he was a Jivan Mukti, he was completely, but once he started hearing the verses of Bhagavatam, he was immediately attracted to the personal conception of the Supreme. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, can I have one more?
Sure.
So about Saguna conception of Brahman, that originates in Shankaracharya, right? The Saguna conception of Brahman, that Krishna's form here is manifestation of Sattvaguna, and then, you know, then it doesn't exist eternally, only at the
Shankaracharya's?
yeah, that was his conception. Shankaracharya's?
I'm not certain. I've not heard that. No. That Krishna's manifestation is only Brahman coming into the material realm? Okay, I'm not familiar enough to know, to respond to that.
I was just wondering if
His prayers to Govinda were relative to that?
Yeah, was his, you know, his prayer in that point of view?
No, I don't believe we could say that. His prayers are from the from the viewpoint of Lord Shiva being the greatest devotee, greatest Vaishnav.
Yeah, then later all his followers that didn't get caught
They didn't get it.
And,
No,
they still.
they weren't supposed to get it.
Yeah, it's covered.
Yeah.
It's covered.
Yeah, Prabhupada uses that example a number of times. Shankaracharya saying Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda.
Mm-hmm. But you've read this, that Shankaracharya's conception of Brahman within the material realm would be Krishna. Brahman would take a form in the Saguna.
Yeah, I think so, but maybe I just you know, mixed stuff.
No. It'll come up again. You'll come across it. So we can see it in context. Anything else? Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much.